My name is Monica Gleiberman, and you're listening to Silence on Set podcast. On today's podcast, we're talking to a cast member from The Winchesters, which is a prequel to the long-running series Supernatural. The Winchesters tells the epic, untold love story of how John Winchester met Mary Campbell and put it all on the line to not only save their love, but the entire world. So to talk about the series and give some hints to the finale, here's Drake Rodger, who plays John Winchester. So obviously, I've seen a ton of stuff about what it was like getting the role, hearing about it, following the Supernatural kind of footsteps. John Winchester is like one of the most beloved characters ever. You've done such a great job. I wanted to know if you obviously, you can see kind of where John as an adult ends up at some point. Have you been working on that as part of your arc for the season? Because you see a younger version, so your character of John, slowly start increasing with the anger, which is something that we see as an issue later in his life.
Well, first of all, thank you. I really appreciate that. John has not felt beloved by everyone, so I appreciate you saying that. I think the long and short of it is the conversations that I had with Robbie when we first got the show was basically to show like almost a Breaking Bad essence storyline for John, where it's like you basically to just see the degradation of his character, both as a man, but also just as a potential father one day and a potential husband to a wife, and just to really give like a lot of context as to be like, oh, I see why. Like if this guy got pushed over the edge, that he would snap and become who he becomes. So the overall thing is like, yeah, that's the goal is to show like the transition into the darker version of John. And to do that right, I want to make sure that we live in the light side of him as much as we can, so you can understand that like John Winchester doesn't want to become Jeffrey Dean John Winchester. That's
Right.
I think if he saw that person, not even I know, like that's his father. That's, even sort of Samuel Campbell. And those are two people that John despises. And so I know that that's not what he would want. I think the caveat to that is when you're working on network television, it's a different beast. It's harder for us to plan like, hey, by this episode, we're going to do this. And by this season, we'll do this, because everything is dictated on the scripts that are coming out. And I basically get the scripts. I mean, let's say hypothetically, we're filming episode 6. About 2 days into filming episode 6, you get a script and you're like, hey, this is episode 7, and read it. And in 4 days, you're going to go film it. That is a different tier of difficulty, I think, where it's like we are trying to like slow roll it and like lead in as much as we can and try to like show in season 1. But my goal would be like a tug and like a back and forth through the whole thing, where you basically just see him grappling with himself, like 2 versions of him.
Yeah, and the other thing that I always felt was interesting is a lot of people, say adult or Jeffrey Dean Morgan's kind of John Winchester was abrasive. And I mean, there's caveats to that too, right? When you watch him, I don't think that's really his kind of character on a steady level.
No.
But we are seeing him after his wife had died. So
Totally.
it's not like we're seeing what happened and how he was kind of prior to that. And
Exactly.
so you're playing someone where, it's way like, years and years prior to that. So it's how much anger do you show, right? It's like, so how far do you go? Because it might be in him, but it's not necessarily where he was until we saw that first episode of Supernatural, right?
Oh,
Like so his life prior. So like, does that play into it too? Because you don't want to do too heavy because
yeah.
that's not really how we met him.
I think for me, what I talked to Robbie about was I love the idea of playing that. It's almost like the Winchester name itself is a curse. And anyone who bears that name bears whatever it comes with in your lifetime. Like you have this essentially like your life is gonna be shit throughout certain points of it. So I like to play the idea that whatever snapped in John Winchester when Mary died has always been a part of him. And I actually wanted to do an episode, and I hope that we can in season 2, where we do a full episode in Vietnam where it's the first time in John's life that trigger ever snapped.
Love to do that.
Essentially like right after Murph gets exploded. Like what happens? Like how did I get out of that? And it's just kind of like boom, it's snapped. It's like everything is just like so. I play John with the idea that there is this like this being, this almost alter ego character that has always been inside of him. It takes something to push it over the edge. So I guess to answer your question, I agree with that, but at the same time, I do want to show that like, oh no, this thing has always been there. He's just always kept it at bay. And then once Mary goes, like that's
it. That's a snap. And then for you, what has it been like? So obviously you get the scripts, you're prepared, you look into some episodes Supernatural, which, there's hundreds of episodes, and you do all of your work, you start playing him. Has your vision of John changed from when you initially got the job to now that you've been playing him for so long?
I wouldn't say it's changed, it's crafted itself. A good friend of mine, his name's Nick, he once said that like art is in every form, but especially in acting, it's like sculpting, where you start with this big block of marble and you have this idea of what it's going to be. It's more like when you start chipping away, like, oh, cool, we can't do this. Oh, cool, we can't do that. And we're taking all these things away that you actually figure out what you have, which ends up being your performance, which ends up being your sculpture. And so I guess the point I'm trying to make with the analogy is that it hasn't changed. I still want everything that I wanted to do with John, I still want to do, the tone in which I play him. But there has been more nuances, and we've leaned a lot more into the light side of him than I thought we were going to. And in a way that I'm just happy with. Another analogy Jensen gave me was he was like, you're playing football. And he's like, as the game goes on, if what you're doing isn't working and you're not able to just change and go, like if the defense is shutting down your offense and you're not able to like scrap the playbook and say, hey, cool, passing isn't working, so we're just going to run. But if you're so like stuck on your game plan that you can't change, you're going to lose the game. And so I think that's more what I've done is like, oh, cool, people are really, really enjoying and they're really resonating with the happy side of them. So the overall end goal is to get them to resonate with the character. So if that's the best way to do that, then yeah, we'll lean into like the little bit more campy, like goofy side of the more Sam side of John, the Dean side. Because ultimately I think that's what it is. I think it starts with like John is Sam and he just transitions to Dean versus I think Mary is Dean who transitions to Sam. And I think those are kind of the arcs.
I was wondering this too, just as a person that's covered the show for so long, like for Supernatural and now this show, and I love it. It's so good because it's so separate. And like, I always tell people, if you've never watched Supernatural, you can watch the show. Like it has like, it's a totally separate thing. And if you did watch Supernatural, it's just really cool. Cause like you'll see things and you're like, oh, this is awesome. But I'm sure like in the beginning, I think with any job, you get nervous. It's your first day, you're kind of working things out. You have Jensen and Danielle who come in, right? That are like EPs, but Jensen's like the epitome of what Supernatural is, him and Jared. So I'm sure that's nerve wracking. Over time, how does that change? Like, how does your relationship develop? Because it's his baby, right? Like, this is like his thing that he wants to kind of cultivate.
The sentiment I agree with, but also like, Jensen. He is as bro of a bro as it can get. So it never felt like I had to impress him. It felt like when he casted me, and I'll speak for myself, I was like, oh, cool. I don't have to earn like your approval. You have just given it. Like casting was it. Like I don't, and he never came from that place of like I'm testing you. I never got that vibe from him. So our relationship has been, we're good friends. I look at him a lot as a mentor. I look up to him a lot. He gives me a ton of advice and I call him more than I probably should. He has just been that where it's like, what's the word for like not needing to earn your parents' love? But that kind of thing. Like he's just always been that. I never had to do anything to earn that from him.
Unconditional.
Unconditional love. And he seems to have that, I guess, as long as I'm not fucking up. But yeah, as from the beginning to now, he's just been a solid resource and super supportive.
And when he's on set and you guys are working together, do you ask him quite like, do you go up to him and you're like, hey, listen, is this something that you think John would do? And like things like that?
100%. It probably is offensive to the directors, but after we'll do a take, I look up over the monitor and I'm looking at him and I'm like, did we like it? Did we not? And it's, he'll always, or he'll come over
give
and
the thumbs up.
Yeah. He comes over and he'll drop lines and he'll be like, hey, say this. Or, when this happens, go do this and stuff like that. But yeah, I always look to him first because it is like if anybody knows the world better than Robbie, it's Jensen, but they're both pretty fucking up there. So
yeah, I love it because when I've been on set before, if they did a take, you would get a Jensen thumbs up, which was good. And then if there were notes, the headphones would come down and it's like a quick walk over. And then it would be like kind of like throwing in like ad lib stuff. So that's what I've seen like on set. So I guess it's still the same. And that's what he's been doing. And it works, right? Like, I guess it's what's working.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, he's great at that.
In terms of the show, we're like coming close to the finale soon. We're like, right there. I wanted to ask you, I obviously saw it ahead of time, which it's fun to see it ahead of time, but it sucks because we can't see everyone's responses. So it's so difficult. But I saw like the photo, which was like the big like moment. And I love that you guys had the birthday and then all of you guys were together and it was so fun to watch you guys. But I had seen the episode early. So when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, like this is huge that, Jensen might be on the show or, Dean is somehow involved. So for you, when you read that moment, this is going to be like, shit's going to hit the fan, like on Twitter, like everyone's going to go nuts when they see this photo.
When I read it in the script, I knew it was coming. I've talked to them and been in on some of those meetings, they inform us, they keep us really in the loop of like, hey, this is where we're going, this is what's going to happen, these are the characters who are going to recur from Supernatural who we're bringing in. But it is still like when you're reading like, oh fuck, it's Dean. And in the script it said it's Dean fucking Winchester. I was like, it's Dean fucking Winchester. So yeah, it's like it got my like, oh, like it's a different thing. There has been moments on this show where I've gotten to act with certain people from the show or they've been on set, and it's like it's those moments where I'm like, oh wow, this is more than just a show for me. I just feel like I'm acting with the people that I grew up watching. I'm acting on a show that I grew up watching as my favorite character from that show, and around me are the characters that I loved, and they're watching me perform, and they're coaching me, and it's like it's fucking so surreal.
And what's so funny is it's so crazy for us, right? Like as a viewer, because I love the Winchesters on its own. Obviously, I love Supernatural, but I did. First of all, when Richard came on, I started laughing because it was so fun for me, like to see him in the 70s with the mustache and like the whole deal. But then you guys got me real good because when Carlos is singing, I did like a double take. So I'm like watching it and I'm going, oh, this is so cute. And then I went, wait a minute. I was like, is that Let 'Em Swing? Like, and I was like, hold on a minute, is that Rob?
No.
And like it took me like a second, and I was like, damn. I was like, they're so good because it's like no one would notice that if you weren't like a huge like Supernatural person, but if you are, I'd like to see that.
Oh yeah.
And it happens like constantly. Like I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. And then obviously the big announcement that Rowena was coming back. Then I think the last episode that aired. I mean, beloved characters, and kind of just like what you're talking about. So as for a viewer, it's so fun for me to like see them how they would be like like years earlier with my favorite characters of you guys that are like younger and like seeing you guys kind of develop. So how is like obviously it's surreal for you because you've done you're acting with both, but in terms of like the history of it all, it's crazy to go, yeah, so I'm reading my script, Rowena, what, like the one of the ones that's on the show the most, and as a woman, as a female, is coming on our show, and makes sense, right? A witch, she could be alive, so like totally makes sense, and people are gonna act with her, and she might be involved and weaved in as time goes on, and Richard could come back, the trickster, he could always come back as time goes on. So, and there's more and more characters that can do that. So is that something that like freaks you out, excites you, like, or like how do you feel about all of it?
It excites me so much. Like, having them come on set, I always feel like, oh, this is your set. Like, this is your set. Like, and they don't make us feel like that at all, but it just does. I just feel like our job is to service what they did. It's so fucking cool. I'm really, really, really hoping, fingers crossed, we're blessed with the season 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, however many, that we can just continue to bring back more characters and in more unique ways, and like building our own individual relationships with them would be really, really cool. Especially, I think, just giving weirder context to down the road, like when we run into those characters in canon, and it's like in Supernatural, it's like, oh shit, they actually had like experiences back in the past. So I think all that stuff is really fun.
I totally love that you said canon. You're so in it, like in this. I love that. I love it.
I appreciate it.
So another question that I had for you too is, as the storyline goes on, obviously people want a season 2, right? When are you expecting? I know like you don't know. We don't know. I haven't gotten anything, so I know no one really knows yet. I know people are talking about it. Since you brought it up now versus waiting to ask you at the end, is there any type of like estimated time that you're expecting or hoping to hear about a renewal?
I would imagine if we're going to be renewed on the CW and on a streaming service or something, if it is the CW, I would imagine that we would hear back before May, because they have their upfronts, which is their big marketing thing to their advertisers, at the end of May. So I think if we were to get picked up on the CW, it would be by then. If it was on anything else or anywhere else, which I don't know if it's a possibility that that's the case, but if that happens, stranger things have happened, but I don't know when that would be, because then we're no longer following a film schedule. Contractually, they have certain time limits where they'll have to tell us by, or they'll have to extend their contracts.
Yeah, because you have to get your like letter of intent.
Yeah,
that's all, like the behind the scenes stuff, but I know all that stuff. So you have to get that, and it has a deadline on it and things like that.
I'm hoping that it doesn't even come to that. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we hear, today, you know what I'm saying? But like, I just hope we hear sooner than later. We had such a fantastic crew in New Orleans that we were working with, and all of our writers are going to get sent out to all these other shows. So I just want us to hear so we can hire the same people back and just really like get right back into the swing of things. Really cool.
I know. And I love it so much because, and again, like it's so hard not to parallel Supernatural, but it's so funny because I still have my original pilot when they sent us like a DVD,
Oh, cool.
like for me to like watch Supernatural. And it's just interesting because they always, you know, Jensen and Jared would always joke, it's like the little train that could, right? Like we just kept going, we didn't know. And for the Winchesters, you got, it's such a good show. So it's almost like the same thing. It's like, I wish that we got an announcement and they're like, the next 3 years, we're good. And then we'll work there. But of course, we're like, come on, come on. And then if it doesn't, but the one bonus that you guys have that Supernatural didn't have is the opportunity to go to streaming if it had to, like in a worst case scenario, which is thing that didn't exist back then. So, you know, at least you have that possibility.
Yeah, to that point, the only thing that has saved the show in the past and Supernatural was the fandom. And I really think that just speaks volumes to the show and what it was. And to have a show go for 15 years that probably could have gone for 20 or more, I mean, it really could have. That stuff doesn't happen just by like, oh yeah, like we're guaranteed No, it's like that's built up of a strong fan base. And that show, it got moved, similar to ours, it got moved around times, it moved around days. Like they tried to put that show out a lot, and the fans were the ones who just kept it alive. And so I guess I am praying to the higher powers that the same thing happens for us. I would love to continue to tell the story. I think there's a lot left to tell. And I think for everyone, I think for the fans who really enjoy the tone of season 1, I think there's going to be more of that. But I also think as we get closer to 1978, but as we get closer to those marks, I think it just gets darker and darker and more gritty. I just hope we can do that because Robbie's got some cool ideas. We've got some cool ideas. Jensen's got some great ideas. And I think it'd be a shame if we couldn't like fulfill that that story, the prequel.
Yeah. My other question for you too is in terms of the show, I know obviously the season 2, we have the question mark. We're hoping like we move forward with it and all of those things. Let's get to Dean because, you know, everyone's going to want to know when I air this, you know, because I talked to Drake. So are we going to see Dean this season?
I really hope so.
Okay. That's such a good PR answer.
Yeah, I know. I was like, how do I answer? Do I want calls or I won't say anything. I don't want to spoil anything. I will just say that you're not going to be disappointed. I think that there's a lot in that finale that will disappoint a lot of people. So that'll be my politically correct answer.
And then do you think that there's, and I'm sure this is for future talk, and I'm expecting a season 2, so I'm just going to act like that's happening. There's a chance for a Sam to appear.
Oh my God, I fucking hope so. I would love that. I think with the way that we're ending season 1, there is opportunity for us to go and to do anything. And that is what Robbie has tried really, really hard to do, is walk the line of, hey, like let's honor the canon, let's honor the characters, but let's also find room to play because that's what makes this show so great. And so I really, really hope, I mean, I hope we get to do Castiel. I hope we get Sam. I hope we get Jeffrey Dean, Matt Cohen.
Oh my God.
Like, I would love an opportunity where, you know, you have this almost Avengers Endgame kind of situation. Maybe not to that magnitude or to that, you know, but just those kind of things would be really, really cool, I think.
You know, it'd be so fun if you guys did, like, if you got away with it, an episode where we see all of you, like all of the Johns, like for some reason you guys all meet in some weird way. Like that would be so cool to see you, Matt, Jeffrey, all like together. You know,
I could see a world where John's Breaking Bad and these future versions or alternate versions of John are like, hey, dog, like Jeffrey Dean would come back and be like, don't go there. And they're trying to stop John from like pushing that envelope because it is like in episode 10, it was one of my favorite moments in our entire show. I think it's 10. It's 10 or 11. Whatever one Mary and I fight the Golem, I think it's 10. And after we fight the Golem and we have killed the people and we're burying them, and it was our only graveyard scene this whole 13 episodes or so. I was like crazy, but I loved it because it felt so supernatural. But our characters are basically standing over these two characters and they're like, you know, talking about that they would do anything for love. And Mary's like, well, that's not love, that's selfishness. Right. And then she looks at John, she's like, that'll never be us. And I think that it's those moments where like, if there was ever a time where Mary dies or Mary's about to die, and it's like what we learned with Sam and Dean, but they got it from their dad and their mom, is that these Winchesters will stop at nothing to save the people that they love. And that means they'll stop at nothing, sell their souls. They'll sacrifice a lot of other people and put a lot of other people in harm's way for the people that they love. And I think that would be a moment that I think, you know, Jeffrey Dean would come back and be like, hey, like don't go down that road, because it's just, and I don't think that I would listen playing young John, but that's an opportunity that I think would be really cool to see them come back.
And I think it's super cool too, because in that aspect, a lot of times when characters are quote selfish, you can dislike them, but But because your characters are fighting the world and saving and helping so many people, it's like we don't even think about that. They've been through so much, they're doing so much for so many other people that
Yeah.
it's like they deserve, give them a break. They deserve to have a selfish moment. It's okay to choose them over someone else, or it's okay to, like you said in the in Supernatural, where like one would go to hell or one would stay or one would, and they kept just trying to keep each other alive. And I think, although yes, it is selfish, and I think that's such a great parallel, that scene in particular. And you guys are like, yeah, no, that's not going to be us.
Yeah.
But of course it will. Like, of course, because you guys are putting your lives at risk.
Yeah, that's what drew me to John. And I think it's the same for Sam and Dean, but I'll speak more primarily for John because I think it's very clear. John's not a hero. He's not a hero. He's a very, very selfish person. It's not selfish out of malice. It's selfish out of like love. Like he will just selfishly choose love over everything else. And God knows why it was Mary Campbell, but it's Mary Campbell. Yeah, I think John would burn the world. And he would. He did. I mean, he ruined the lives of his two sons in a pursuit for revenge, not even to save, and revenge for her, And I think I love that. I love playing like I wouldn't call him an anti-hero, but complicated individual. I think there's just something really human about that.
So I have a couple of fast questions for you. So what do you think makes John such a good hunter? Because when he comes back, he has this war background, but he's not a hunter. And he gets thrown in, and yes, it's like fumbly in the beginning, but let me tell you, he's pretty damn good at it. What do you think is in him that makes him such a good hunter?
Funny answer would be his ability to get punched in the face and not die in every episode ever. And I see that all the time. I'm like, oh, I have another bruise in this episode because I got slammed through a fucking cement table.
Or like electrocuted and you were still alive.
Yeah, exactly. I think the way that we have played John, and what I'm hoping will start to come through more, is that John's lust for violence is like that. I think is what makes him a great hunter. Is I think there's a part of him that really, really, really enjoys like the violence of it. Like really enjoys beating the shit out of something, and there's something therapeutic for him in that. So I think that's the serious answer.
Another question: clothes. Let's talk about clothes. So you guys, by the way, you're always you're dressed super cool. Like I feel like you guys are, anyone related to like the Supernatural, all you guys, I don't know if you all talk to the same wardrobe people or whatever, but you all dress awesome. And I always tell Jensen every time I see him, I'm like, dude, where'd you get that shirt or that jacket? Like you look so cool. So of course you look super cool, but for the time period, how fun are the outfits? And then like, do you choose anything? Do you have any say in that, or you throw them on, or do you hate them?
So we have our wardrobe lady, her name is Carrie, and she was the wardrobe for at least the last half of Supernatural, if not the entirety of it. And Jensen got her to come down to New Orleans. So she does all of our wardrobe, and she's super, super collaborative. I would say my character has the most bland. That was a decision that we made. When I talked to Carrie, I was like, look, it's the 70s. Our show is going to be different than Supernatural. We have different characters. It's an ensemble piece. It's not just two brothers. It's not just John and Mary. There's also these other two characters. So I was like, I want to make sure that the fans see Sam and Dean and John. So I was like, everything that they wore, just put on me at all times. And anything that they wouldn't have wore, don't put me in. I just want fans, when they see my character, to be like that. But watching everybody else dress fancy is really, really fun. It's really, really enjoyable. I don't know how my confidence would be in a lot of those things. They had me in bell bottoms in episode 1, and I hate them. I hate them with a burning passion.
You look so cool in them, though. That's so funny.
Oh, I hated them so much.
Was it uncomfortable, or you just felt weird?
It's not practical. Like, it's just so impractical. Like, we're sledging through the swamp, and those things get so dirty and muddy, and like they get weighed down. And I'm like, I just don't see John ever wearing bell bottoms.
I know, he's so cool. He seems like a cool guy. Like that's someone that would be his first choice.
Exact. To fairness to the wardrobe people on the pilot, those were Carlos's clothes that I was wearing.
Right.
It worked.
But yeah, but I think that's such a smart decision to say, like, listen, let's make a collaborative decision. If they wouldn't have worn it, I don't want to wear it. And I do see it, because you'll see like a little bit of flannel, or like a little bit of plaid, or a little bit of square. And like, so you can see where, or like a jacket, one of the jackets you had in one of the episodes, I went, ooh, that looks just like something that they would wear. So that's why I was wondering about the costumes altogether, if you had to say in any of that, because it's cohesive. You see it. So it's just super cool that you guys got to do that or have that conversation.
I love it. I think it's a ton of fun. In episode 13, actually, and this is one I will say, the red flannel is from Supernatural. It's a deep article of clothing. And I don't think that this is a spoiler to say, but Carrie calls it the oh shit flannel. Like if somebody's wearing a red flannel, it's like an oh shit episode. It's just every time that it happened, I guess, in Supernatural, she would like anytime it was an episode. I also like when I got the show, that was what I was most excited about. I was like, I can't wait to be freezing cold in 30 layers of clothing. And like, I love that. And then I found out we're filming in New Orleans, and I was like, one layer of clothing, and we'll be fucking fine with that. But yeah.
Yeah, you're like, please don't put on too many things on me.
So bad. I mean, we had it in reverse. So like we started out with a bunch of layers of clothes, middle of the summer, and then they were like, cool, we're gonna write you in with t-shirts. So then they wrote me in with t-shirts, and then it got really cold. And then so I was freezing cold. It was just, yeah, we missed the cycle for sure.
Like, I always wonder this with actors. Like, I'd rather be cold because at least, like, they have those warmers and you can kind of coat and like you take it off and you kind of deal with it while you're filming. But when you're hot, you guys never sweat. Like, I've never seen an actor like sweating. And I know like I know like human wise you do, and they bring the fans and all the things that you need. But when I watch it, I'm always like, how is he not sweating? Because like you're wearing like a jacket, and I know that it's hot as hell in New Orleans.
Yeah,
so
it is nasty. It is, you don't even want to know.
it's like humid. It's a lot.
I like the cold because I feel like even when you're shivering in a scene, it adds to the drama. It can add to the scene, like the breath, everything, like the shivering, the holding yourself like this. It's all like real, and I think it adds to it. Nobody likes to see people just sweat on camera. It's uncomfortable for everyone. So yeah, it's like cold over heat for sure.
So let's just talk Winchesters alone. This cast is amazing. When you guys did the press conference, I was laughing because you and Meg were so cute, like together talking, and like so excited, and like JoJo was excited. Like everybody was just so happy to like start this off and kind of run on this road. So how are you guys as a team? I'm assuming you guys are like super close and all hang out and things like that. So how did like the bond slowly start forming? Was it instant on day one, or like over time now you guys have this huge kind of like little bond together?
Yeah, no, we are. And Bianca hangs out with us too all the time. So she's kind of like she is a part of the core group. On the pilot, we literally every single day we would just hang out at someone's apartment, and we would watch like we would always pick a horror TV series or a horror movie, and we would just watch it, or stupid YouTube videos. But we hung out every single day on the pilot. And then when we were filming, our schedules are usually opposite. So Meg and I'll be working, and then one day, and then JoJo and them will work a different day. And so it's a little harder for us. But we would every weekend we would get together, and we would hang out at either my house, Meg's house, Nida's house, or JoJo's, and we would just watch TV. So we hung out all the time. And if we're going to the gym, Bianca would go to the gym with me, Meg would come to the gym. So it's just like, yeah, we formed a little community. When you're filming on a location, that's really all you have. You don't have enough time to go out and meet people and make friends. So it's like you're just living with these people for months on end. So you just become real close.
Yeah, and it's also hard too because you're on a show, right? So it's like you don't know if anyone comes up to you, do they know who you are? So at least you have people that know what you're going through, and then you can all kind of like relate to one another. So I was so happy that it wasn't just like you alone or just you and Meg, like that there was a whole group that were all involved in the show that could be together and kind of work through all of that stuff, because you all got famous pretty fast. I mean, like the second it kind of started airing, everybody was like dying over all of you guys for different reasons. So, it's hard to kind of handle that. I mean, it sounds kind of like a stupid question, but was it helpful that you guys had a whole group of you to go through it together? Because I'm sure people coming up to you going, hey, can I have your autograph?
I don't feel famous. I don't. I think there's just a difference. Like I will get that when we're at conventions or at like an event where people know that like we're here and it's like fans are in this place. But I don't think that I'll speak solely for myself. I don't think that I'm at a place where like I feel still like I can walk around with my anonymity. Like I can walk around and people don't really know who I am.
That's great though.
I am cherishing that as long as I can, because I think in this career, inevitably you end up losing that. And once it's gone, it's gone. So to answer your question, it is nice to have a community to go through all of those new like mile markers as they come.
I wanted to ask you, in terms of the show overall, is there anything that you want to tell everyone for what's to come, like in the last kind of 2 episodes, because they're a little nutty?
I would just say like I am very excited to see with how the show ends where we go. I think Robbie opened up, and there's no we there. Robbie and Jensen opened up the ability for us to go anywhere and do anything after this in a way that like I think people are actually going to really appreciate and be able to like, okay, cool, I see why they're doing what they're doing. So yeah, I would just say when we're on season 2 and 3, just get fucking ready. It's only going to get bigger and better from here. So
I tweeted out, I tagged you and asked people to send me questions, and I got some really good ones. So this is from @DeansBestie_. It says, if you would want to do a really funny, bizarre episode like The French Mistake or Changing Channels, what do you think it would look like for the Winchesters, and what do you want to see?
Okay, bizarre. I would love to do something with Loki, like where they're acting in a TV series. Like I think it'd be really, really funny for us to do that. Where like we are are the filmmakers on a set. It's like Meg is like a actress, I'm like a PA, JoJo's directing, Nida's the producer or the studio head. You know, like I think that type of thing would be really, really funny. And like we're slowly realizing what the fuck is happening. Like I think something like that would be really funny. If I could pick an episode of Supernatural for our show to do similar, would be Baby, all from the car or all from the van or whatever it is.
I can't wait for the car to get introed for you guys. I'm waiting for that to happen. So season 2, hopefully, right? We have another person. So you kind of answered this question a little bit, so you can kind of, I guess, do like an abbreviated version. But Brandy Renee 1516 said, first off, I want to tell him how amazing of a job he's doing, and I'd like to know, how does it feel stepping into the shoes and playing John Winchester? So we talked about it a little bit, but if there's anything else that you want to kind of add.
Thank you, Brandy. A massive honor and privilege to do this at any level, but to do it for a show that has this type of a following and this much engagement and people who really care about it. I feel very privileged to do it. So
we have at @A_, and I'm going to say this wrong and I'm sorry. I'm just going to spell it. It's BUSIAU. She or he wrote a question that can be asked for everybody, because I was tweeting out that I'm talking to all of you guys. You had the opportunity during filming cons to meet many members of the cast, crew from Supernatural. Who would you like to meet that you haven't met yet?
I'm trying to think, because we've met a good portion, even at the con. I just did Jib in Italy. There was a good portion there. We hang out with the, Rob and them, that whole crew. I haven't met Samantha yet. I would love to meet Samantha.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be really cool to have her on. Maybe like she could play, like, I don't know, they could probably come up with something cool to like make her come on the show.
Oh my God, wouldn't that be a sick episode if we incorporated like the one that I was just talking about with like we're like on a film crew, but it's also Jeffrey Dean's there, Samantha's there, but like none of us know that we're each other.
Oh, that would be, or like, it'd be so cool if you guys were all the ones like filming and you're like, what's going on? And they're the actors.
We're filming Supernatural. Oh my God.
How crazy would that be?
Oh, somebody captured this. That's brilliant. Robbie.
How cool would that be? And then we could bring everyone, like Richard, Rob, everybody could come on, and it would be like an episode that we've seen or something, but you guys are like filming it. That would be so much fun.
So funny if we're just filming an episode of Supernatural and Sam's there, and I guess Dean would be there. That'd be so funny.
That would be so awesome. I just like to say, so let's pass this on to Jensen. You have to tell Jensen, and I'll take my 10%.
Yeah. Well, for sure.
But no, I would love to see that. That would be so cool. We have to make that happen.
100%. I'm not even kidding. I'm going to talk to Robbie about that. I love that. Best idea wins.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to be so excited. Brittany McKay. So it's at Brittany McKay. It asked, as a fan of Supernatural before getting this job and now being on the Winchesters, how much plaid or flannel do you own?
All of it. I own all of it. I took all of the wardrobe from set home. So I have everything.
Are you allowed to do that? Because I know like when they come back, they bring it on like a little hanger. Like, I don't know if people know this, because I've been on a lot of sets before. You get your wardrobe, you go into like your trailer, they give it to you. So it's in a closet, you put it on for the day or whatever. And then when you're done, you're supposed to take, I mean, I don't know if this is what works on your set, but you're supposed to take it off, put it back on the hanger, you leave for the day. And then someone comes in, collects it, and does, I don't know, whatever they do with it. So I always wonder how people steal, like I would want to steal everything. And I always wonder how they do it. And I would just be like, oh, sorry, I wore it home. Like, I don't know where it went. But are you just like walking off with it?
No. I clear most of it. I've only walked off with certain things that I won't say because that's not allowed. So I've never walked off with things. But Jensen got the Impala. I'm fine to take a shirt, okay? I think I asked the wardrobe. I'm like, hey, what at the end of the day can I take? Like, what is going to get returned or what can fall off a truck somewhere, and I'll pick it up.
It's PUSSELS68. Her display name's Anna Little. She said, I'd like to know whether he prefers filming action, comedy, or emotional scenes, and why.
Emotional are my favorite scenes to do. I love drama, but I also love the comedy and action. But here's the thing, I don't like written comedy. I like to just find it. Like I like, oh, I can just do something funny here. And I find a lot of that, it doesn't usually get used, but I find a lot of that in the action, where like, we did that in the Gollum fight. Like, I get up and it's like, hey, look over, like those things. There was a whole take one time where John Showalter, our producing director, he was like, hey, just give me one, go to 11 with it. And I was just fucking around with this Gollum for like 2 minutes. And afterwards he's like, well, that was 11. And I was like, there we go. That will never be used.
That's awesome. I love when I know they released a little bit of like the bloopers, but I used to love when like Supernatural would release them. And I think there's one where Jensen's like, was that enough? Was that enough for because they were probably like amp it up, and he probably went crazy. I would love to see that on a blooper.
I think there's another one similar to that, and then I think that there's one that's going to be like long of just all the gags and bloopers and stuff.
Well, hopefully it makes it on there because I would love to see that. A lot of people, by the way, are saying how great you're doing. It's like Lou_ELL_AH said, just tell him how well he is. He's great in the show. I mean, it's such a hit. Hashtag renew the Winchesters. So that came from him, like him or her. So many people, how great you're doing, how amazing it is. Renew it. They want season 2 news, which we kind of talked about. So the last question from a fan, it's at 3_layer_Dean. Have you ever read Supernatural fan fiction? No need to name specifics. If so, are there tags or tropes you really enjoy or want to avoid? But I guess we could stick with whoever read any fan fiction.
No, I haven't. The sole piece of advice, the first thing that Robbie ever told me is he's like, if you ever want to look Jensen in the face again, he's like, do yourself a favor and never Google the show. He's like, just don't do it. He's like, I'll send you the website that you can pull up like Winchester or the Supernatural wiki, but he's like, don't Google anything.
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff out there.
Yeah, no, I have no idea, and I'm trying to stay as far away as I can.
So, well, thank you for answering fan questions. I'm sure people are going to be super excited. I'm so happy to talk to you because I enjoy your work so much. I think you're doing such a good job. I think it's so overwhelming to step into something like this and to make it its own and to make John you made him your own, and he's been done multiple times, and you're doing such a good job. Like, there's nothing I would say to you, and I'm being completely honest. There's nothing I would say to you that I'm like, I would change that, or I would suggest this, or here's a criticism. You're just doing such a good job showing him and the struggles, but also the love and then the friendships and all the stuff that he's doing and then the fighting and just like wanting to be a good person. And I think he's striving to be a good person and doing what and he has a lot of demons already that he's trying to kind of go through, but you do it in such a great way, and you're funny and your action scenes are good and the emotional scenes are emotional, and I know the finale is coming up, which is going to be crazy. It's really amazing to watch, and I'm like super impressed by you, and I know a lot of people are. Obviously, like, so many people are writing how much they love you. So I kind of want to just end with, is there anything that you want to just say to all the fans? I mean, I'm seeing hashtag renew the Winchesters more than anything on my timeline.
Thank you. I too hope that we get to do this as long as we can, but if we don't, I just have nothing more to say than thank you. Like, the love that they show and that they pour means the world. I was so nervous doing a prequel, but also playing the character John. I had no idea what the reception was going to be, and they had prepped us for it to be bad. You know, the fact that it is not that, but not only not that, but it's an outpour of love. Like, I can't express how much that means, and the confidence that it gives us going into a season 2. But just as an actor, as an artist, which is a profession of insecurity, it gives me a lot of security. It gives me a lot of confidence. I can't thank you enough for all of that. And I mean, you to everyone. It really doesn't go unnoticed. The tweets, likes, all of that stuff. Like, it does mean a lot. So thank you.
Hope you guys enjoyed listening to Drake talk about what it was like being a part of the show, some advice that he got from Jensen, and of course, a few hints into what we can see for the finale. Make sure you check out the show airing on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the CW. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you're updated on all of our latest podcasts, and head over to our YouTube channel, hit subscribe so you're updated on all of our video content.